America's Wild Horses, Living Free. Written by Jean Heilprin-Deal. Introduction. America loves wild horses. America's wild horses are fast and strong. They roam on lands in the west and on islands off the coast in the east. Many people admire their grace and beauty. Wild horses are a symbol of the American West. Look at Nevada's state quarter, pictured at left. It shows wild horses running free. Wyoming's license plate shows a cowboy riding an untamed horse. Wild horses are part of America's history. Their story and our country's story flow together, like the hair of a horse's mane. Chapter 1. Early Horses. The story of America's wild horses begins more than 55 million years ago. Early horses were the size of big dogs. They had toes instead of hooves. Over time, horses' bodies changed. Some became bigger animals with hooves. Millions of years ago, some horses crossed a land bridge in the Arctic. They moved from North America to Asia. From there, horses spread to other parts of the world. Then, around 8000 BC, horses disappeared from America. This likely happened because of changes in the climate, disease, and hunting. For thousands of years, no horses lived in America. In other parts of the world, though, people started to tame them. People used horses to hunt and farm and for transportation. Chapter 2. How Wild Horses Returned to America. The story of wild horses in America began again when explorers arrived from Europe. The explorers traveled on ships, and they brought along tame, trained horses. As explorers moved across America and created settlements, horses traveled with them. Explorers and settlers rode the horses and used them to do work, such as pulling heavy loads. When Native Americans saw the horses, they were amazed. They had never seen these animals. Some thought the riders and the horses were one animal. Later, many Native Americans became experts at riding horses. Once horses returned to America, some of them soon became wild again. In one instance, when ships from Europe sank in storms near the East Coast, horses on board were able to swim to shore. Afterwards, they lived on the land in wild herds. Other horses broke free or were set free from settlements. Some escaped during fights between settlers and Native Americans. These horses also formed wild herds. In the West, horses that returned to the wild were called mustangs. Chapter 3. The Land Crunch. For a long time, there was plenty of land in the West for both people and wild horses. However, as more land became settled, wild horses got pushed into different areas. Some herds moved to the desert. By the early 1900s, people rode trains, tractors, and cars. They needed horses less, yet the number of wild horses had grown. Some people called them pests. In the 1930s, the United States government decided to reduce the number of mustangs. It allowed thousands to be killed. At the time, few people knew or cared about what happened to wild horses. Chapter 4. Wild Horse Annie. The story of America's wild horses might have had a sad ending if not for Velma Johnston. During the 1950s, she became upset about the treatment of wild horses in Nevada. Planes and trucks were used to round up and capture wild horses. The animals' meat was turned into pet food. Velma hated seeing Mustangs treated badly, so she worked hard to help them. She gave so many powerful speeches about helping wild horses that people started calling her Wild Horse Annie. In 1959, Congress passed the Wild Horse Annie Act, the first law to help America's wild horses. Even so, Wild Horse Annie kept working. Thousands of schoolchildren joined in. They wrote letters like this one. Dear Wild Horse Annie, I read about you in the newspaper. Please don't let anybody hurt wild horses anymore. Why can't they be free? I am only 9, but I care a lot. I think all wild animals should have a safe home. Sincerely, John. The children's letters were sent to Congress. Thanks to these letters and Wild Horse Annie, Congress passed the Wild, Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act of 1971. This law said wild horses must have a place to live and be treated well. Chapter 5. Wild Horses in America Today. Today, wild horses live on land that the government has set aside for them. When the number of horses grows too large for the land, the government puts some horses up for adoption. People buy them, take them home, and train them for riding. Others become police horses or learn to march in a military color guard. Even though there are laws to protect wild horses, people don't always agree on how the horses should be treated. For example, helicopters are sometimes used to round up wild Mustangs for adoption. The laws say that using helicopters is allowed. However, some people think this is cruel because the helicopters scare the horses. Other people think the helicopter roundups are needed. They point out that too many wild horses can hurt the environment by eating and trampling the plant life. This can cause problems for other wild animals, as well as for ranchers' cattle that also graze on the lands. The story of these beautiful animals is not over. People will continue to make decisions about wild horses and the places where they live. As long as we share the same land, our story and the story of America's wild horses will flow together.